Russia in chaos. Belgorod is drawing. A dam burst wipes out Russian army position near Vovchansk. The city is in total blackout. No light, no water, only panic after night strikes. And now the Kremlin is suing its own people for war damages. Russian forces to return money for homes destroyed by their own army. Drones, floods and fury. The empire is collapsing from within. How long before Russia finally breaks? Welcome to Ukraine Today. I'm Zorislava Kolesnikova. Let's dive in. Dam break in Belgorod region. Russian army position flooded near Vovchansk. A massive disaster has hit the Russian front lines. The dam in Russia's Belgorod region has burst, sending powerful water flows from the Belgorod reservoir into the Siversky Donets river, flooding Russian military position and cutting off entire units near Vovchansk. According to sources in Ukrainian defense forces, this dam was heavily damaged during an overnight strike. By morning, the water level in the reservoir had dropped by more than 1 meter, unleashing a wave that swept through Russian trenches, bunkers and armored vehicles.
The water has effectively cut off several enemy units that had crossed the Siversky Donets from their main forces.
According to Russian media and regional governor Vyacheslav Gladkov, several HIMARS rockets hit the target, damaging technical buildings, lifting mechanism of one of the gates and the dam's crest.
The strike has damaged several parts of the dam. A second attack could lead to its collapse and flooding of nearby villages where about 1,000 people live.
Local authorities have reportedly begun preparing evacuation plans and temporary shelters in Belgorod city for residents of areas at risk. The flooding reportedly hit units of Russian brigades as well as elements of the 6th Army, including the divisions and the 44th Army Corps. Russian troops are now reporting lost equipment and requesting emergency assistance for their command. Ukrainian drone system forces have carried out a precision strike on a dam in Russia's Belgorod region, confirmed October 26 by SBC commander Robert Madai-Brody. After a dam at the Belgorod reservoir was damaged, water slipped into the floodplain of the Siversky Donets river, flooding nearby areas and disrupting Russian military logistics near Vovchansk in the Kharkiv region. Viktor Trehubov, head of communications of the Joint Forces Command, said,
"Some Russian brigades are now struggling because the water flooded their deployment and supply zones. This has clearly affected their combat readiness. Some of their plans had to be changed. It's a positive development for us, for the defenders on the southern Slobozhansky front. Several brigades are not only disabled but now face major logistical problems that will force them to reduce activity and rethink their actions."
The Belgorod reservoir, built on the Siversky Donets river, has overflowed after the dam destruction, dramatically raising water levels downstream. This has paralyzed Russian logistic, disrupted movement and created new dangers for the enemy's groupings on the Kharkiv front.
The damage to the dam could lead to flooding of the Siversky Donets floodplain, parts of the Kharkiv region and several border settlements of Russia.
The dam burst has literally washed away Moscow's defense and once again shown that the war it started is flooding back onto its own soil. Blackout in Belgorod, Russia's border city left without power and water after night strike. The Russian city of Belgorod and surrounding districts are plugged into darkness after a powerful overnight attack that caused massive damage to the region's energy infrastructure. Governor Vyacheslav Gladkov has confirmed that rolling blackouts will be introduced following the incident. According to Russian sources, explosions rocked the city late on October 5th, reportedly hitting the Luch power substation. Soon after, a large fire broke out at the site, cutting power and water supplies across several towns.
There are significant damages to the power supply in 7 municipalities. Nearly 40,000 residents were left without electricity.
By the morning of October 6, 24 settlements remained without electricity. Around 5,400 residents in Belgorod city were still affected. Gladkov also reported minor infrastructure damage across the city. Windows shattered in a commercial building, debris hitting cars and private home roof punched from falling fragments.
Debris from intercepted missiles caused several fires in the city. There were no casualties.
Local Telegram channels published videos showing entire neighborhoods going dark, with residents filming the moment the lights went out. Some reported hearing multiple explosions before the blackout began. The blackout is a stark reminder of how the war that Russia started continues to turn against it as darkness spread deeper into its own territory. Russia sues its own citizens for war damage compensation. The authorities of Russia's Belgorod region are demanding that residents return money means to rebuild their destroyed homes. Officials claim some villages weren't actually attacked and now want back up to 40,000 rubles in compensation from families who already lost everything. How long can the Kremlin go suing its own people for the consequences of its own war? And how long will Russians stay silent while their government literally takes back aid from the victims?
The authorities of the Belgorod region are trying to reclaim, through the courts, compensation of up to 40,000 rubles from residents of the Shebekino district for damaged housing, which was allocated to them in 2023, allegedly because some settlements were, in fact, not subjected to attacks.
Many decisions made by the Russian authorities simply cannot be explained by rational motives. Why they are doing this is another entirely different question. Perhaps it is simply to put people in their designated place even more forcefully and assertively.
So far, in all cases, the courts have sided with the residents. At the same time, Sberbank is still debiting money from citizens' accounts even without court rulings.
And of course, I wanted to ask you not to reach out because the document preparation is absolutely obvious. Those whose homes, for example, have been destroyed in the past 2 weeks. Because processing data and applications and requests right now won't be quite correct since too little time has passed.
Since Putin has no intention of stopping the war, the problems are accordingly being shifted onto the people. Who else would they shift them onto? Accordingly, everything that will happen, whether it's tax increases, some kind of money being taken away, I don't know, from so-called foreign agents, all of this, in fact, goes into the same pot. In other words, there are budget difficulties, but it's ordinary people who will end up paying for it.
It seems that they promised to pay out money, and even Putin himself ordered the destroyed housing to be rebuilt.
We urgently need to significantly ramp up our collective efforts to fully restore and completely rebuild everything that was tragically destroyed, to genuinely help people safely return to their beloved hometowns and cherished villages wherever security conditions definitively allow.
And Gladkov even reported on the successes in the reconstruction.
We have about 47,000 homes damaged or destroyed. We have restored about 42,000. Yes, there are some houses in Shebekino that we've had to restore 14 times. For example, the compensation for partially or completely lost property, previously, before it was raised to the federal level, this payment was 50 and 100,000 respectively. Now it's 75 and 150. To date, more than 66,000 people have already received this payment, totaling over 4 billion rubles. Unfortunately, this list keeps growing.
New housing, even if we're just talking about the Belgorod region, it's hardly possible to buy anything there for less than several million rubles. Even if you decide to build it yourself, building materials are so expensive now that with 150,000, you can hardly buy anything at all. So in terms of restoring what's been destroyed, this is just laughable money. It's simply a way to shut people up, nothing more.
The hundreds of appeals from victims that regularly appear online speak for themselves.
My house has holes in the roof, the windows are broken, the doors are damaged. We're afraid. What are we supposed to do? We've reached out for help. My daughter called. No one is listening to us.
We have nowhere to live. Please, give us the opportunity to receive compensation for our housing. We want to move away from here, but for some reason, our authorities are rejecting this.
But that's not all. Due to difficulties in the Russian economy, the authorities in Belgorod have decided not to restore the damaged property of those who have left until the war is over.
We have carefully considered and subsequently made the important decision to fully restore essential housing services and public transportation infrastructure. For all residents of the Belgorod region whose housing and transportation were damaged during the shelling and who have now left the territory of the Russian Federation, we will deal with the restoration of both movable and immovable property after the end of the special military operation.
And then they decided not to pay money for temporary housing rentals and to force everyone who left to return and live under shelling.
That's also wrong. It's absolutely and unequivocally clear that a significant number of people have departed for the Moscow region, specifically the residents of Belgorod, and as of this very day, they are steadfastly and categorically refusing to return to their homes and previous lives. We can't say that the danger is completely gone. But on the other hand, we definitely understand the trend. The trend, thank God, is positive. We have in-person education, kindergartens and schools. That's why we need to meet with people, talk to them, explain things, provide assistance, and bring them back home.
It's absolutely obvious that the authorities don't care about people at all. The more people get killed, the easier it is. Because if they're killed, and even better, if there are no relatives left, it would be best if everyone was wiped out. Then there won't be any need to pay anything. That's for sure. Just like they prefer to list people as missing rather than killed, so they don't have to pay compensation.
The only strange thing is that in those hundreds of appeals, residents ask for money and housing, but they don't ask to end the war, which is the direct cause of their current troubles.
Drones rattle Russian night terror, civilians in panic. A terrifying night in Bataysk, Rostov region. Residents woke to explosions and the sound of drones overhead. The city, aka rail hub, was shaken as people ran off cover and voices cried out in fear. Even Russian social feeds are now pointing targets and debating where Ukrainian drones should strike next. Is Moscow losing control of its own backyard? And are civilian centers now in real danger? Full report next.
What is that?
Mom! Mom!
It was a restless night in Bataysk, Rostov region. Even there, the friendly drones arrived on the night of October 21st. Oh.
Damn, I was so scared that it would come to us.
It is reported that Bataysk is a major railway and sorting hub. But what's also interesting is that Russians themselves are now suggesting where Ukrainian drones should fly. Guys, not here. You need to hit the Kremlin. You got the coordinates wrong. Meanwhile, the largest Orenburg gas processing plant and Novokubishevsk oil refinery completely halted operations after the Ukrainian drone attack. Although in Russia itself, they say something different.
In Orenburg, it's a classic case. The Russian Ministry of Emergency Situations denied there was a fire at the gas plant, but immediately sent firefighters there to put out the blaze. Of course, in Russia, the truth has long been forbidden. When everything is burning, but the reports say everything is calm.
And the plants probably won't be up and running again anytime soon. After all, according to reports, restoration work won't begin until at least the start of November.
So what is the main objective? To paralyze as many energy facilities in the Russian Federation as possible to create an imbalance. For example, to take out as many facilities as possible in the central part of the Russian Federation, which is exactly what's happening now with all sorts of substations, so that facilities in other regions of the Russian Federation become overloaded and experience oversaturation.
13 occupiers eliminated. Special Operations Forces fighters infiltrated behind enemy lines and destroyed enemy positions. Meanwhile, Trump announced a new secret weapon.
There is a weapon that many people don't even know about, and I started working on it 4 years ago.
Of course, Trump couldn't help but emphasize the superiority of the United States over China, including in terms of military technology.
The United States has a lot of developments, a wide variety of weapons, and all sorts of projects that are at different stages of implementation. Some are already in the final stages, some are only halfway through, and some are just being planned on paper. But due to the economic superiority of the United States, once again, they have many different potential projects. Again, scale is an issue here. They can produce 1 or 2 prototypes and boast that they already have them. But here, the real question is about quantity.
Meanwhile, as Russian drones continue to violate European airspace, the German Chancellor announced the creation of a federal unit to combat drones and a center for UAV protection.
This is a good sign. It's a good sign that at least something is being done in Europe to counter the Russian threat, because no one knows what to do about Russian drones, but here at least some steps have been taken. How they will be implemented, when they will be implemented, how quickly, how effectively, remains to be seen, but in any case, it's a positive development. This shows that they understand, they recognize the threat, they realize that right now they don't have the resources.
Meanwhile, the French Foreign Ministry announced that Ukraine will receive a loan from the EU to purchase defense equipment for the next 3 years.
But let's be honest, Putin's presence on the territory of the European Union only makes sense if it leads to an immediate and unconditional ceasefire. Moreover, Vladimir Putin is interested in adopting the principle of an immediate ceasefire because time is working against him.
Plus, there's another country joining the Pearl program. Previously, Italy had refrained from participating, having its own reasons, but now the country's position has been reconsidered.
Perhaps when Italy first refused to participate in this program, they thought the project wouldn't take off, that it wasn't viable, that it wouldn't last, and that it was all just nonsense. But upon closer inspection, it turned out that it is taking off, it's being funded, interesting developments are emerging, and the countries participating in these projects are gaining access to technologies, sharing data with Ukraine, and it's quite possible that some kind of jealousy was at play in Italy.
Russia continues to strike peaceful Ukrainian cities. On the night of October 21st, 6 Russian glide bombs hit Kharkiv. 11 people are known to have been injured. In Kherson, 3 people were injured as a result of a drone attack. And after the drone attack, Chernihiv was left completely without electricity and water.
That's all for today on Ukraine Today. If you believe the truth should hit harder than propaganda, like, comment and subscribe. Your support keeps us on the information frontline, exposing the Kremlin's lies and showing the world what's really happening. Stay informed, stay strong and stay with Ukraine.